Did you know the biggest problem people have with VR is the weight? Strapping 394 grams to my head almost always leaves me with a sore neck. It's built from a lot of small parts. So I had to ask, what if we start taking some of them out? I stumbled across this Reddit thread where somebody had managed to relocate the battery. They mentioned it made the headset almost feel like wearing a hat, it was so much lighter. And well, this was their final design. It seemed like an overwhelming success. So I'm going to try and tear down the whole headset and remove the battery. The first step was to completely remove this gasket. Then I had to do a screw, another screw, and just a whole lot of screws. Finally, after doing enough, the top seemed to pop off. I could then get started with some more screws. It's interesting seeing it from this internal perspective. Time to disconnect the front sensors. I could finally remove the antenna bracket. We were getting closer and closer to that battery. I could finally start completely removing those front sensors from the bracket, and they popped off just like that. Of course, with some more screws, we can get the fan off. Now it's time for the heatsink. And finally, this metal bracket. Almost there, just need another screw. And it's popped off. It's a shame they put it this deep in the headset. It's estimated to be about 60 grams, which is around 12% of the headset weight. I then had to rip some tape off. I'm trying to identify the positive and negative terminals on the battery. Finally, I think I found them. A weird way to think about it is the anode is essentially the starting point for electrons, and the cathode is where they finish when they're done going through the battery. I didn't have any spare wires lying around, so I thought I would use this old broken USB-C cable. But I eventually found some red and black cables laying around. I soldered the positive and then the negative. Now it's all done, the next step is to plug everything in and put it back in the headset. I generally hold off on putting all the screws back in case I need to quickly undo it and fix some issues I made. Things seem to go in pretty easily. Almost everything seems to be in the headset. It looks really strange with a wire hanging out, but it's kind of a cool modded look. I managed to get it to 315 grams. That's just over a 20% reduction in the weight. If you plug a USB-C cable into the headset, it still won't turn on. The battery physically has to be connected to the motherboard for it to work. Full disclosure, I had to reassemble it a few times to get it turning back on again, but we got there. Okay, so we've got the headset running into this battery and we can now just give it a try. Oh boy. Oh wow. So immediately it just feels way lighter. That's what I'm really noticing. I'm not sure if I'll actually play, but I just wanted to test out the weight of the headset. You can't really feel the cable going off it either because they're very thin. I think another mod I would do is tape them up so it just feels like one separate cable. Wow. This is so much lighter, especially around the back of my neck just here. It feels like all the pressure has been taken off. I could see it would make a huge difference for long VR sessions. It just feels way lighter. And given I usually have a cable running out of the headset anyway, it doesn't make much of a difference. It really makes me wish they removed the computing power off the headset and put it into a small brick so the headset could be even lighter. It's so strange that they put it all on your head. It's just so heavy. At the same time, it was much more of a complete package without this mod. It's a bit sketchy having these wires running everywhere and it might break at some point and I'll have to open up and fix it. It was also very hard to just tinker with the headset as well, and you need a soldering iron, which isn't the easiest thing in the world to do. Yeah, it's noticeably lighter. That's just incredible. In hindsight, I would have gotten a much longer cable and taped it to a much bigger battery pack, which I will still probably will do. We can try and shoot some enemies and see how that goes. Now that we've loaded into Bone Lab, we can probably test it out. It really just does feel a lot lighter. Wow. Wow, it's so much lighter when you're playing. All the strain's taken off my neck. Now the question you might ask, is this worth doing? If you're just a casual user, no, but if you're playing VR chat for 15 hours, then it probably is worth doing. It just makes the headset so much lighter. You can really feel the difference when you're playing. So I think I would recommend it for hardcore VR users, but for light users, I wouldn't. I almost always have a battery plugged into my headset anyway when I'm playing, so this is just an obvious upgrade, but if you weren't doing that originally, then there's probably no point. But I'm pleasantly surprised. It just felt so much better. It's much better for those long-term VR sessions. I could really feel that. And wow, thank you so much for watching the video. I'd love to hear your thoughts below. I'll link the Discord server below if you want to continue the discussion. It's worth joining just for the memes.